the sea to sky. That is the land, hot on the day. Well, the claymore did wield. When the night came, and silently lay, dead on garden field. Sleep on board like a bird on the wing, onward the sailors cry. Carry the lad that's born to be king, over the sea to sky. Though the waves leap, softly we sleep, ocean's a royal bed. Rocked in the deep, Thorn will keep watch by your weary head. Sleep on board like a bird on the wing, onward the sailors cry. Carry the lad that's born to be king, over the sea to sky.
Hello, this is my last day in the ownership of my own house potentially. Yeah, I've now changed the front page of my website to show you everything that I've revealed as a fraud researcher in the religious sector, in the political sector, in the financial sectors, in the war crime sectors, in the genocide sectors, and all of it takes you right into the modern day news and Rory Bremner's relatives. That's his dad-in-law runs Ponzi schemes out of Hawick, where the singers of that song you heard come from. Okay? And if we, sorry, I've gone too far back in time, but let me now show you that all of the things that I'm investigating lead to all of the world ownership. So Akewood Tower is a peel tower very near the town of Selkirk and all of the hubs for the Buccleuch family. Yeah, that's where David Steele is on the Future of Syria funding boards with the Flemings, the war criminals. Okay, Patrick Campbell Fraser Company is the father-in-law of the Hawick. He's based in Hawick, his companies are registered in Hawick. They're massive Ponzi schemes, yeah, and they pretend to be either eco or pharma associated companies, but when you look at the website for them, they are just numbered Ponzi shells. Okay, that's Rory Bremner, the newsman's dad. Okay, and let me show you Rory Bremner in real life, and I'll then shut his tab down, because this is not really funny at all. This is the analysis of what is happening to our financial world and the intel world, and the man who makes this interview has interviewed me. That is Rory Bremner. They are claimants in the monarchy and the elite clans in Britain. You remember the little fightable one on the football pitch played for the Leeds Freemasons? Yeah, when Scotland's football team was relatively great. All of it is just a diversion, like this man Bremner specialises in. This is a video made by me years and years ago. Yeah, Rory Bremner is the man who pretends to be the political and financial expert. Yeah, and this is the Snowden story that is the leaking of the secrets of America and Germany to the Russians, and all of that launches Snowden, who does not actually exist. He's a fabrication of the BBC, yet like many of Bremner's characters. Wait till you see this one. Yeah, it's absolutely damning that they can get away with this. And Rory Bremner interviewed me in Edinburgh, on one of the side streets in Edinburgh, and my wife pretended that she was mortified. She laughed at it hilariously. Yeah, that's the Hillary Clinton joke, you remember that? Hell, Arius, Clinton. Yeah, all of it is the same joke. Donald Trump is related to Hillary Clinton. Both of them are running for presidents, and all of the names in that genealogical tree are the world leaders since the Pisos wrote the Bible. It's ever so slow, this one, and you'll see the reason why. Yeah, so what happened after all of this scandal about the false news was released is that the man who's Snowden, yeah, which is just the cover for Princess Margaret's lover, and that is Princess Margaret, that is the half-brother of Bill fucking Clinton. Yeah, and all of it is a cover, and the whole of the media is a lie. Yeah, and the whole of our government, including the Hawick wing, is a lie. That's where the Borders Council now have their hub. When the Queen visits, she visits there. It's up the Teviot Valley, like all of the castles I'm going to show you, and the Trump links to Scotland take you into Troon, and it's a false news story, because the real Trump hub is nearer Selkirk and the Buccleuch regions, and I'll show you all of the interlocking names that they have to use so that Donald Trump is free of suspicion. Yeah, and he's married to Czechoslovakian princesses, third wife now, or fourth maybe. Yeah, the whole of his life is a lie, and I was complimentary to him before I released, even when I released his Ponzi schemes in Scottish Wind Power. This is not going to start. Oh, here we go. So this is Russia Today, which is a money laundering event. Yeah, they refuse to make interviews with me because I've got all of their director numbers, and Gordon Bowden has confirmed that they operate from opposite the Tower of London. Yeah, and Max Kaiser was a communicant of mine. Okay, so this is the Houses of Parliament. Yeah, that's that fraud, but the Treasury is emptied by the fraudsters in the cabinet. Yeah, and that's Danny Alexander, who's been knighted this week because I expose him as a fraudster in the Lib Dems. He's the Treasury officer for the Lib Dems when Michael Moore was running all of those bogus companies that mean that Alnerley are laundering the French political cash and the Westminster political cash, both chambers, out of Britain into the havens. Okay? So let's get on, and here's the man that is Rory Bremner. That's the non-existent Snowden, an actor from America. He's now the rector, thanks to my old mate Ken Kalman. Yeah, that's the joke about Kalman Rothschild who visited the Pope, and that's his name. Harvey is the name of the puka, yeah, in the jokes about Hollywood, and sadly in the lineages that are the so let's listen to this.
To the general public, it would not have been surprising if they had just kept the budget as it were. That would have been understandable. 3% increase.
So first we have the rationale of security, the issue of terrorism.
Sorry about the soundtrack, I'll just try and fix that for you. So, that's Gillespie, yeah? Selling nuclear weapons, cost of spying. Rory Bremner is the actor. Okay, line out. It will probably have stalled there. Okay.
austerity cuts in other sectors which really affected the British people. So how do you view this? How was this justified?
I am biased in my answer, having an association with the.
So, can you see the magnitude of this? This is Russia Today, the money launderers from Moscow, which is totally owned by the British. Yeah, that's the Future of Russia Foundation, the Oxford Russia Fund, all of that run by Lord Patton, the head of the BBC, and their studios in London are right opposite the Tower of London, where the Trident scandal is registered now, since they moved it from Eccleston Square. So this is UK spying agencies. Rory Bremner lives opposite my sister in a tiny little village, and I've learned this morning who the previous owners were, and they are in the aristocracy, linked to the Ogilvy family and linked to the elephant jokes of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. I will not give you more clues. I see them every weekend. They are religious worshippers, and they are decent people. I've talked to them. Yeah, if they do not start to work towards decency and a civilized country without all of these vicious jokes, I will reveal their identity in the course of time unless they have me executed. Okay, so Rory Bremner is the actor making this interview on all of the false news. Yeah, and it's about austerity and spying. Yeah, and he's just a comedian, lives very near, his wife is from Hawick, and I've got the director numbers for his father-in-law's Ponzi's and his trading address. I'll show you them in a minute or two. Okay, let's take it back a bit and let's hear the hypocrisy.
That would have been understandable for 3%.
So first we have the rationale of security, the issue of terrorism. On the other hand, you have backlash from the revelations of Snowden, and you have austerity cuts in other sectors which really affected the British people. So how do you view this? How is this justified?
I am biased in my answer, having an association with the services. Yes, I think it is. I'm surprised at the extent, when you're talking about the GDP of Britain increasing by 1% a year, to have a 3% increase. This is quite extraordinary. But it will be seen, I'm sure, media comment, to say that in the light of Snowden's revelations, that this is a British government saying, we're not concerned about that, we are going to go ahead, we are not embarrassed.
So, Rory Bremner. Okay, Russia Today, and there's Max Kaiser, right under the Tower Bridge. Yeah, all of that is another false news plant. Gordon, John Patterson has been interviewed by them. They refused to interview me because the woman Abby understands that I understand everything that they do. Okay, so let's turn that one off and let's work our way through the tabs. So he lives now, Rory Bremner, opposite my sister. Yeah, used to be a mansion for the aristocracy. His wife is from Hawick and her name is on the directors listings. Okay, Patrick Campbell Fraser, company check. Yeah, there's loads of them. The one with the Alexander in the middle is definitely a Hawick man, and that's the same name that is cited in the Wikipedia article for Rory Bremner and his in-laws. Let's show you that. Okay, right opposite my sister, and my sister's son was dating the niece of the woman who is the Irish woman. Yeah, Bremner's wife Tessa comes from the area and she still has family connections there. That's not the Tessa Balfour, I don't think, but yeah, this is Patrick Campbell Fraser said both Rory and Tessa love the borders, and of course the family is delighted they will be moving here closer to us. The house needs quite a bit of work, and here's all the references to Gordon Bowden's MPs. Yeah, they dare not talk about Gordon Brown and all of the things that we've talked about with that massive comedy programme that laughs at all of these jokes. That is the story about the Lib Dem who died, and John Prescott's fish. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, all of the false news is sponsored by the fraudsters, and let me show you the Bremner family frauds, or the Hawick, yeah, the local people. The Procurator Fiscal, who last week at the courts, 2 weeks ago, said that he had not issued the energy warrant to shut down my energy. Yeah, he's the Procurator Fiscal that was in power when I was stripped of my right to plead not guilty at the courts. Okay, all of that is now proclaimed on the front page of my website. The whole of the harassment of me and all of the psychiatric sectioning, I have revealed the real news about why they need folk like Rory Bremner to have a laugh at Law Enforcement UK. Okay, and there's, backed by the Her Majesty's government, the ISAs that are absolutely worthless. Okay, so I don't know whether there's a picture there, and my sister might be doing the weeding on the other side of the road. Yeah, that's the sister that was prepared to testify that I am an evil person and my wife deserves to be free of me and to be owning half of my home, yeah, and all of the assets that I put together. Yeah, and she was given less than 24 hours to activate that affidavit. My evidence, which was never presented when my wife was under oath, needed to be presented 2 full months before Sheriff Peter Patterson, who runs the 26 million debt pool for his corrupted law companies, which is now on the front page of my website with his moniker and his mugshots with all of the people that he interlocks with. Yeah, that is the Better Off Together leader McCletchy, who's now in the shallow grave, and Peter Watson at Levy and McRae, massive fraudsters against the British people, and they are the ones that bang up the innocent people that live in the council homes like the Hawick citizens. Yeah. So Rory Bremner buys massive mansion. Okay, the Edinburgh-born impressionist is moving with his family from the Cotswolds, yeah, where Stephen Andrew Hancock's works, right in the Prime Minister's constituency, and that is the brother of Mrs. Valerie Jane Lees, who's all over the front page of my website, because she's the one that initiated the sectioning threat in 2011, and only because the doctors are criminals I am still at liberty and drug free. Yeah, because I revealed that in 2011. When they got to 2015, because my wife is now divorced from me, she's now dissociated from the attempts to get me sectioned. That I will not allow that to happen. She's on the front page of my website now. Okay, so Crailing House near Jedburgh, Roxburghshire. The previous owners are lovely. Okay, set in 28 acres of land, the house has 3 reception rooms and 4 bathrooms, and all of the fields around it last week were buried in water. Yeah, in the biblical floods that are covered. The agents are Knight and Frank, and that is the relations to the people that are in the Clinton dynasty and in the Donald Trump dynasty. Okay, it's Regency splendour in parkland setting. Okay, and he's a piss artist at the Borders Book Festival with Jim Naughty, Sally Magnuson, the religious fraudster, and all of the people who come there. That's Ali Moffat, the massive man with all those interlocks to the Watt family that are all over the videos I've made earlier in this month. Okay, yeah, and that is the boss at St Andrews University before the Intel expert became the boss at St Andrews University, and she was helped into Oxford University by Sir Ewan Brown, the massive fraudster. None of those frauds get covered by the BBC, and all of them are defrauding the local councils, where my other relatives used to be the treasurers. Okay, so you know the shrubbery joke now. Do you know what Rory Bremner does on the side? He became a patron of the environmental charity Borders Forest Trust last month, and next Tuesday will officially open Lord Sanderson of Bowden's Border Textile Tower House. the final phase of a 10 million flagship Heart of Hawick regeneration project. That's Hawick that had to evacuate 1,000 homes last week in the biblical flood. All of it is explained now on the front page of my website, with pictures of the war crimes in Iraq, Afghanistan, and all of the director numbers of the interlocking culprits. And when you understand that Rory Bremner reads the news about the genocides perpetrated by financial fraudsters that are the Rothschilds, all wars, every side, in all through human history, then you get a little bit sickened by it. So let's get on with the story and why Donald Trump is in the news all the time. Okay, I'm going to shut that now. So that's Rory Bremner buys Borders Mansion. The people that used to own it are lovely. And they worship. Yeah, they worship every Sunday. And I'm now talking to many of those people, and thank you to all of the locals that realise that I am an innocent party, and the MacLeods that link into the Trump family are the people that defrauded my lovely neighbours of all of their investments. Yeah, that's the Lloyds banking group, and Lloyds, the shipping empire, the sinking ships fraudsters, yet run out of the fairy castle on the Isle of Skye, which is why I played you that music at the beginning. Let's get rid of Rory Bremner. Okay, so he interviewed me in Edinburgh. It was about people in Edinburgh's knowledge, and we can get rid of that one, although I'd like to show you the companies that they run. Okay, so this is Bremner's father-in-law before we finished with him. A Hawick man, like the Currys. One of the Currys died really young. He looked like a chain smoker, and you can see that they're making jokes about Scottish history, and all of the jokes about Bonnie Dundee and all of the treason out of Dundee. Yeah, this is a peel tower, just like David Steele's peel tower. This one's a little bit further to the west. That's Branksome at the top of the Teviot Valley, run by Sir Walter Scott of Buccleuch. Okay, so the Dukes of Buccleuch are also the Walter Scott dynasties, and I've explained that to you in multiple videos now. Okay, all of the Scottish borders. So let's get the financial bit. There's the Bremner tab. Okay, and let's make it full screen. So Patrick Alexander Campbell Fraser is active in the business register. He's at Garden Cottage, Borthwick Shields, Hawick, Scottish Borders, UK, TD9 7LS. And when I opened it, you could see that the company check website was in a panic, because they began to change all of those numbered shelves, yeah, to that more legitimate looking title. Yeah, and there's 524. When you scan to the right, you'll see that each one of those directors, let me read them so to give them some guilt. Yeah, some of them have the Mr. Dick name, Mr. Robert Ian Dick, Mr. Jeremy Richard Hole Evans, Mr. John Campbell, Mr. Malcolm McSwan, Mr. Matthew James Benson, Mr. Richard Mannington Muir Simpson, Mr. Robert Ian Dick, Mr. Stephen Mabbitt, Miss Fiona Margaret Campbell Fraser, Nomina PLC. Yeah, that's also called Nameco number 524, like the Miss Fiona Margaret Campbell. Yeah, these are related directors. Yeah, those are Ponzi frauds. That is one of the earliest crimes to be detected, and that was detected in America. And Ponzi was persecuted in the same town, yeah, prosecuted for pyramid selling in the same town that Homer Simpson was launched into as a joke. Yeah, and there are Simpsons on the list. Okay, so and when I was in the process of watching it, they were actually changing the numbers to that more legitimate label. And Campbell runs the company check website. Okay, here's another one. This time it's called, and also registered in Hawick. So that's the Alexander character. also registered in Hawick, and Borthwick Shields. That's a famous name, Andrew Borthwick, and all of them are in the rugby sector, and in the history of the borders. They're very prominent names. Okay, and then we get another listing for another company, Hampden Legal PLC, MBM Secretarial Services Limited, Mr. Brian Reid, Mr. Ian Duff, Mr. Ian Stanley Parsons, yeah, Ecto Pharma Limited, and there's the Nameco one again. The number of appointments for each of those secretaries and directors is over 3,000 in some cases. Yeah, very busy fraudsters. Okay, so that's Patrick Alexander Campbell Fraser, and the Fraser is the Procurator Fiscal at the Jedburgh Law Courts, and he claims that he never yeah, or any of his colleagues at the level of Procurator Fiscal sent me the warrant to break into my home and to shut down my energy. Okay, right then. So, and all of that is me on the trail of a man called Fat Lips, and that takes you into the legends about the Scottish borders, reavers, and this fickin' family. Okay, so this is the Kinnaman. Kinnaman Willie is the joke about one of Walter Scott's characters being imprisoned in Carlisle Castle, where Queen Victoria had her only legitimate child. There it is. Yeah, yeah, and all of the stories about fighting with the Scropes. All of the families fight with the Scropes. That's the Westminsters. You remember that story? Yeah, and these are the wardens of the West March. And this is Rory Stewart of Cumberland's designated political territory, and he's an expert on all of the federated states since the Norse people visited our country and took it over. There's very little truth released since the French visited our country and took it over. Okay, but across here in Cumberland, you've got the Butcher of Cumberland who commits the massacres at Bannockburn, and he then spends his life in retirement in Berkhamsted Castle in Hertfordshire, right next to where my wife's family live, and all of the places that are the safe havens in bombing time, in wartime. Yeah, that's why de Gaulle went there too. And that's the Geoffrey Chaucer joke about Berkhamsted. He's the clerk of works in the castle. Okay, and that is a dead ringer for David Steele's home, where he runs the NHS healthcare frauds from, because I've visited it and I've seen the massive pile of NHS boxes in his garage. But that one is the Buccleuch property. Yeah, and David Steele's, all of those houses are renovated at public expense. Same for Baron Reid of Celtic. Okay, so there's the Bremners, and there's another one, and this one's registered in this is called Ballachulish Estate Company Limited. That is right next to the Falls of Lorne on the way across to Mull. And I've told you the stories about Hitler's visit there on the royal yacht with the British Royals post-war. Yeah, and thank you to the people that are revealing all of those secrets to me. And we saw the royal yacht in the same channel when we went there on holiday. Okay, Mr. William Patrick Fraser Campbell. Yeah, that's the brother-in-law of that is the parent of Rory Bremner's wife. Okay, and registered address is given there too. Okay, so just to let you know that they're on the take at everything they do, and they're allowed to issue totally false news as jokes against the people, as the people's pension funds get crashed in pyramid selling schemes. Right. Let me tell you about a little bit about, look up the border reavers and you'll find the Kinnamont Willie Armstrong jokes. Yeah, and the fact that these are actually secret societies, like the one that Lord Sanderson of Bowden runs. That's the Walter Scott Club. yeah, and they warmonger and they coerce all of the people, even the monarchies, into war, and I've told you all about that happening. Okay, in March 1596 a day of truce was held at the day home of Kershope. It was traditional that the truce was witnessed by both Scottish and English members of the Board of Clans and Families. Do you remember the Braveheart movie, when they are given the coercion instructions by Longshanks? He is selling off vast tracts of England to the Scottish traitors. All of it continues to this very day. Yeah, their role was to ensure that the trials of the felons brought to the truce for judgment were both impartial and fair. That's already the judiciary. Can you see it? Yeah, and the fat lips joke takes us into the maps that I've got now, and it takes us also into the Trump story, because when you look for fat lips, they send you across to Lanarkshire and a place called Symington. Let me see if I can find it. Branksome at Selkirk, Scottish borders. Okay, so the Branks is the face mask that gags the woman, and if she wags her tongue at you again, like she did when she was dissident, yeah, that's the gender wars in Hawick. They don't allow them to participate in the common riding. And let's see if we can get rid of that for a moment. And there's more on Carlisle and that cabal of reavers on that tab there. Okay, so that is a story by Walter Scott, the author, yeah, Keeper of Liddesdale, Sir Walter Scott of Branksome and Buccleuch, right across into the Selkirk region, where David Steele gets his house built at the public expense, and he's the one that defrauded the whole of the Scottish public by raising the costs of the building of Holyrood by tenfold, and he's in league with the Flemings in the future of Syria funding. It's a massive scandal. Right then, I can't get those 9 other oh, here we go. Okay, so have you heard of Symington? When you look, so let's get rid of that one. Yeah, there are dozens, there are at least 6 director registers for Patrick Fraser. Okay, I've only shown you the results of 2 of them already. We'll get rid of that so that we can save some airspace. Okay, so here's the Clinton connections, yeah, and they're massive. Yeah, if we go to that other tab there, we can see it in zoomed in form, and you can see Donald Trump Sr., Mary Ann Trump, Malcolm MacLeod. Yeah, we're right into the Isle of Skye and the fairy fucking castle. Okay. And Callum Kerr and all of the interlocking covers. Remember, Michael Moore was replaced by me, yeah, in the British cabinet. Yeah, that's all the jokes about Gordon Bowden's MP that was in that little story that I told you earlier. Okay, and that's MacLeod, they're on Thurso. Here's the Mackays of Clashfern, huge power brokers, members of the judiciary appointed by Mrs Thatcher in the last year of her regime when she had just brutalised Argentina. Yeah, and her pick before Mackay, yeah, was the Pufta that was Fairbairn. Yeah, and the Mackays of Kinloch B, Halmadry, Isabella Mackay, the Munros, Donald Mackay, First Ray, Fiar of Strathnaver, right up on the north coast. Yeah, where the Frenchies came in, and then that's the places where they launched the Muirducks that are the Murdochs. Jane Gordon, Lady, Alexander Gordon, 12th Earl of Sutherland. You know all about them, the links to the Montefiore's, and the links then to the Rothschilds, and the founding members of the Rothschild family. They live in Merton, just up the river from here. Elizabeth Gordon, Countess of Sutherland. And here's the Stuart's joke. This is my favourite movie. Jimmy Stewart is in that bloodline. Yeah, Elizabeth Stewart, John Stewart, 1st Earl of Atholl. I saw the goddess, who may well be the daughter, the illegitimate daughter of Prince Charles, in at the supermarket again yesterday. She's very evasive. I think I'll just let that ring. I've asked them to ring me back at 4. Okay? Yeah, I'll just let that ring. Can you see how easy it is to surveil an innocent man in his home? And the insurers are committed to ringing me back at 4 o'clock. Okay? So, John Stewart, 1st Earl of Atholl. Did not realise that, yeah? You know all about the Charlie Stewart and all the stuff about Bonnie Prince Charlie and the Stewart dynasty. Yeah, and here we go. We're into the west coast, we're into the Utrecht territory, we're into the Percies. That's Perseus in the Roman court, Countess of Northumberland. Yeah, and these are the relatives of one Donald John Trump Sr. Okay, and here down below we get other Percys, 3rd Earl, the Gascoignes, yeah, Paul Gascoigne, all of the stories I've told you about the Gascoignes interlocking on the boards, yeah, and Paul Gascoigne being an alcoholic. And here we've got the Ogle story, and that's the launch of the Ogilvies, which are also connected to the decent people, yeah, that I'm learning more and more about, that used to live in Rory Bremner's new house, right next to my sister. And there's Arthur fucking Scargill, yeah, in the elite families. He's another union leader, and another political activist, and another false socialist. Okay, so the Ruddams, that's Hillary Clinton, are the Greys and the De Greys, yeah. That is the Earl Grey people that were the Governor Generals in India and China, and the empire upon which the sun will never set. Okay, Ruddam, 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 all of them, yeah, through the bloodline. And where does it take us to? Hillary Rodham Clinton, her husband is the half-brother of the Queen, and all of them are in blind panic now, because they either have to assassinate me in the full face of these public exposures, or they have to conciliate. There is very little likelihood of that, yeah, because they've run the world this way for way over 2,000 years, since they defrauded Christianity. They have now demonized all of the other religions and all world wars and all of the news we have now. It's totally pathetic, because Greg Hallett and I have explained how the media press muppets, yeah, that is Murdoch and Max Clifford, yeah, the media circus ringmasters, yeah, all of it was declared in those videos in 2012 when they changed the laws of succession, that all of the news had been revealed, and the only tactic they had now was to make themselves the culprits, the focus of the news. So you understand now why Donald Trump, yeah, exposed for me as a fraudster in those Ponzi's, selling Scottish wind power. He is involved in a place called Troon, yeah, and that is the links to the fat lips that are in those fat lips. So fat lips, I believe, will be the joke about the families that are the Hawick families, and the other fat lips castle is just up the valley at Minto from Hawick, okay, just down the valley rather from Hawick, and that is Minto, and that is the Elliot families, that is the Turnbull families, that is the Kinnamonts, that are the people that they pretend that they got out of jail in Walter Scott's novels in Carlisle Castle. And it's all of the legends about the Armstrongs, who were the first men to go to the moon. Okay? So, and let me show you the stories about how they cover up the ownership of Troon and the places that are there near to Troon. And that's on the Google map later on. But what we got? So there's one of the Fat Lips relatives, Louis the Fat, and he's a Capet, yeah, and there's the Eakwood Tower that is the home for David Steele, and okay, so there's the Border Reavers, Clan Turnbull and Minto Tower. When I found that this morning looking for the Fat Lips people, yeah, it referred me to a place on the west coast of Scotland, and that's on the Google Maps thing. There we are. So there's Branksome, the Nesby Tower home of Sir Walter Scott of Buccleuch, and it proclaims for you that, oh no, I think it's on this Symington, there it is. Okay, Fat Lips Castle, an ancient fortalice. Yeah, yeah, the lice thing is the Archie Louse joke about the Piso family and some of the earlier members right back in Marcus Aurelius's days and before. Okay, and that is in Symington Parish, Lanarkshire, on a spur projecting from the southeast skirt of Tinto Hill. You've heard of Rio Tinto, that's the Queen's holdings in the business frauds, 2 miles northeast of Whiston. So I found Symington, yeah, but it's not actually in Lanarkshire. And I'll show you where it is. It's right across with, and all of the place names in the Symington that you now find when you look for it on Google Maps are associated with Donald Trump, and his golf course is right in the heart of it. Okay, it's now represented by only a piece of wall about 6 foot high and fully 6 feet thick. Okay, and there's more about Fat Lips, but that's in Galashiels, which is Michael Moore's constituency, and this bit is really difficult to suss out because it's just a house, it's just an ancient house on the A7 road up towards Peebles and Stow, and that's where the Tweedsmuirs are in the crime scene. Okay, right next to it you've got Halliburton, the crooked company in the Iraq wars, and the Magdala Terrace. Yeah, Magdala was the woman at the Citizens Advice Bureau who gave me the advice that if I own the title deeds to this house, I can never be displaced from it. Yeah, and that was in one of the meetings. It was just a telephone call actually. None of the other meetings I was allowed to have. I was scammed out of them by Homelessness, Domestic Violence, Scottish Borders Council, who then go on to section me. Okay, so there's Halfords and all the places where we buy for my mother-in-law the devices that allow her to get in and out of the bath. Yeah, and when my wife came out of that visit to that place, she fell over on the pavement just as Michael Moore, our corrupted MP, was passing her by, and everything that happens to me. But I don't know what Fat Lips Rock is. If any of the border citizens can explain that to me, get me on Facebook and engage. Okay, that's trivia, but let me show you the map again of how Donald Trump's troon is right next to that Symington cover. Oh, we've lost the map. So there's David Steele's home, yeah, also right next to Selkirk, yeah, and that's one of the places where I was scammed out of a job, and it's right next to the massive Buccleuch estate that is Bowhill. Okay, did a lot of work up there, and the dynasty that is the Drew dynasty yeah, is also part of the French frauds from the 1066 era. Yeah, that was my old boss in Selkirk, and that's the Selkirk Freemasons that do not understand why only 2 people in the kilts returned to their hometown alive in the Flodden massacre. Okay, so and there's no pictures of it, but it's a dead ringer for that little place that you just saw. So I'm quite distraught that Google Maps has been disappeared, and I cannot show you that evidence now. So let's open it again. what the hell. So the gist of the story is that the place that is the shit. So there's the border reavers bit. Maybe it's under a second tab on one of those. That's the secret of who lived in next to my sister before Bremner, the joker and the fraudster and the false news expert. Okay, and that's the links to the condes. Yeah, that's the massive links to the French people, and that is the condominium joke, which is also a translation for the word piso. I think it's an Italian translation. Okay. And it's all over the place, but I cannot find the Google Maps that we had open. Bottom. So the gist of it is that when you look up Symington, you're right opposite. You're in Ayrshire, Rabbie Burns is Ayrshire, and you're right opposite Donald Trump's golf course, yeah, which is Troon. Yeah, but the real Symington, with all of the things about that tiny little bit of wall, and the other. No, I have not captured it. Let me see if I can find it again quickly for you. No. Oh, that could be it. No. So, when you look for the Tinto word was the giveaway. When you look for Tinto Hill, that takes you into a place which is a Freemasonic hub called the oh, what the hell, let's just show you how innocent I am in a context of the persecution that has been thrown at me by the law courts in Scotland. Okay, I'll recreate that Google map and I'll show you in a later article, or I'll publish it with the video I'm just making. Okay, so that says my rewards as a professor, political activist, human rights, serious fraud, global economics, religious and war crimes investigator. Okay, currently include a groundless divorce from a disloyal wife, no sex for over 4 years, a bartering tool called desertion, prompted for by the government in Westminster, Holyrood and the monarchy, all of whom are mafias, better known as the United Kingdom, the Better Off Together movement and the Constitutional Monarchy, or the United Nations, to silence and impoverish me as an activist. And there's all of the signed witness statements that I've got all of the Ponzi schemes of the Rothschilds, Malcolm Rifkind, and all of the interlocking war crimes directors, including Anthony Chilcott, and all of their Ponzi shells. Yet run out of Lothian Road. There is Sheriff John Halley. There is all of my revelations on Ali G, the religious jokes, the links to the Rothschilds, and the High Priests of Israel covers for that. Okay, there's my call to the Justice Secretary. There's the bounced cheques that come from my wife, because she's in the debt pool, but she's allowed to stay there, and when she owes me money, she's allowed to bounce her cheques. Frederick Anderson Goodwin and all of the interlocks with that man, and there's the Ministerial Correspondence Unit's receipts from the Scottish Government. Yeah, there's Thingland's Ballop. in my house. He had that video with 2,000 hits in less than a week, shut down as an invasion of his privacy. And there's the Hancocks. Yeah, that is my wife's company that she now proclaims again that she works for. She's not making it a secret anymore now that she's taking all of it from me. So, mental health sectioning threat, and they launch 100 quid's worth of shares, and all of a sudden it's worth 700,000. And when I share that, they take me off Facebook. I have no contact with that family now. Yeah, mental health sectioning threat since 2011, prompted for by Mrs. Valerie Jane Lees in 2011, then again in 2015 to secure the divorce, thousands of pounds, half of my home, and remove my freedom of speech, enforced both times by former copper Dr. Ian Fingland from the surgery, who confessed in 2010 that 40% of a UK doctor's salary comes from dismembering their patients by meeting pharma prescribing targets by volume. Up to 2009 I was on the ASCEP Drug Safety Council for Australasia. Okay, loss of my right to work, scammed out of all jobs by members of the peerage, including Lord Sanderson and Bowden. Yeah, and he's in the syndicate that includes the Bourbons and the owners of that massive hotel, all of the people that were in Colditz and the profiteering in World War II. And one of the registrations for the in-laws of Rory Bremner is in Brook Street. Yeah, that is the Innsbruck joke and the birthplace for Hitler. Yeah, and it's no room at the Innsbruck joke. Loss of my right to drive and possibly to renew my passport and emigrate, freezing then subdivisions of all of my assets and home, and dismembering of my family group. Yeah, all of my male children now in the student loans debt pool that I've exposed, profiled and challenged almost alone. According to Sheriff Peter Patterson, whose former law firm employers run a 26 million debt pool, Interlocks, McCletchie, Watson, there's their mugshots at McCletchie's funeral. That's Sheriff Peter Patterson. He would not allow me, left centre, attenuated my proofs hearing, and would not allow me to ask questions under oath, aka to defend my innocence. They cover up the war crimes of Rifkind and the Scottish and English governments, and my reporting of these at a ministerial level, you've just seen the receipts for them. Okay, they've stopped me scanning down the page now. That is the obfuscation and cover-up of the frauds and war crimes, Westminster and Holyrood. So they're allowed to deploy Rory Bremner, yet to tell false news right opposite the Tower of London about why our economy is busted, and they're allowed to cover up. That's McCaskill. Yet he had to resign as the head and the Scottish Police Commissioner in all of the frauds run by Stephen House, and all of the asset stripping of the police force and all of its properties all over Scotland. The Sheriffdom, yeah, for Sheriff John Halley from Arnott Manderson, Kevin Drummond, Peter Patterson, Procurator Fiscal Fraser have imposed lifelong gagging orders, energy shutdown warrants, a refusal to accept not guilty pleas recommended by the solicitors, who now refuse me their services for insight into law society laundering frauds and their speculative society interlocks to Cameron, Abernethy, J.B. Morgan, Douglas Home, McCall's of Monaco, George Soros, and disgraced Michael Moore, my MP. That is a shutdown on communication with elected officials for way over 2 years, a breach of the UK Constitution which led to Michael Moore's Secretary of State for Scotland departing from the Cabinet with nothing on Hansard since 2005, now continued by the Scottish Borders Council, who are sectioning me, David Cameron and the Whitney Conservatives, John Lamont MSP, Callum Kerr MP, Paul Wheelhouse MSP and Michael Matheson, Scottish Justice Secretary, since Salmond and McCaskill resigned for complicity on all of my disclosures. The Queen too has refused to reply to my State of the Nation and the global economic crisis on the fact that every country on the globe, is now in a sovereign debt crisis. And she's the sovereign, and she's the main beneficiary of that, and she runs the Rio Tinto joke that I was just explaining to you on Google Map, which I actually accidentally took down. And that's right next door to the epicentre for the frauds in the Buccleuch region, yeah, and all of the Walter Scott frauds in the Borders region, and all of those massive estates that are owned by that English Scottish SS. So a declaration that I will be enforced psychiatric medication as a Professor of Pharmacology and former Australasian Drug Safety Council member for my exposures of the NHS polypharmacy frauds. My energy has been closed down and metered, totally ignored in the valuation of my property, to try and gag, intimidate me by the same court that is now long complicit in all of the issues exposed by me, listed and pictured below. Okay, this is what I do. This is why they want me silenced and replaced by Rory Bremner. Yeah. And my sister was prepared to demonise me as the bad person. Yeah, that's Mrs. Margaret Elliott. Yeah, that's the Elliots that run yeah, the Springwood house, if that's the same Margaret Elliott that I went to school with. And every time I mention it, Roger comes to talk to me. Dougie fell off his bike last year and had a terrible set of injuries. He does not talk to me anymore. Okay, that's the that is the Foreign Secretary, sorry, that is the inquest chair to the arms Iraq, and he interlocks with Rifkind. There they are in 2002. The profiteering war crimes of Rifkind and arms to inquest chair Sir John Anthony Chilcot, interlocking at Lothian Road with Abraxa, and now moved to Morningside to try and cover up my disclosures. There's the Trident, Eccleston Square nuclear extinction scams run by mercenary Tim Spicer, with no Westminster or Holyrood decision makers on the board, totally suppressed as news by the government and law enforcement UK for 2 years, as I get pulled into court to defend myself as a badly behaving, relentlessly truthful husband. Since all of this was published and ignored, right up to ministerial and PM level, Scotland and England, Salmon resigned, but David Cameron is still brutalising Syria and formerly Ukraine to cover it all up and bury me ass up. That's Ukraine, where Fleming is on the boards, and loads of Fleming, that's the Bond family, yeah, profiteers in World War II, who got Hitler out of the bunker using the little blue dress jokes. And that is the cover that I've explained to you involving Bill Clinton, who's the Queen's half-brother. The sectioning was relaunched when I wrote to the Queen on all of the frauds, including the Messianic religious research I have openly published, referenced and explained as the biggest cause of death and persecution genocide in world history. The profiteering in wartime, peacetime and genocide, all of this has launched the demonisation of Islam by Donald Trump. Yet do you see the magnitude of it? They're all in the same greedy bastard families and bloodlines, and they will not stop killing people so that they can retain the ownership of our fascist globe. There is no honest democracy anywhere in the world. And the appointment of terror professors to lead 800-year-old universities like Oxford, Professor Louise Richardson, first female boss in 800 years, I am to become a martyr and a drug-induced vegetable for my courage in revealing World War I, World War II and all the false terror. Yeah, that's the monarchies, that is Princess Lawrence, yeah, that is Anne Lawrence, and her son-in-law is the rugby player that is the airbase. Yeah, that's Mike Tyndall, and it's the Tyndall airbase, and all of them are up to their necks in killing of their citizens so that they can keep the power base. And if someone like me comes along, they do it using the best NHS in the world and the people that trained as Polis first. Yeah, that's Ian Fingland. So the biggest issue in world history is the ownership and the issuance of money through the federal central banks. In every nation on every continent this has now been privatised, celebrated by ABBA. Also a joke about the Father God, since the 5 Rothschilds left Frankfurt and took over Global News, and the Bank of England was privatised in 1815. I have revealed these frauds and all the private board members, including union leaders like David Prentice. Okay, and there's all of the stories that I sent to the Queen, like Greg Hallett's stories. Greg Hallett was disappeared for almost 2 years after he revealed that they were illegitimate for 160 years. It's now 163 years, yeah, and they had better get on with my execution really quickly, yeah, because everything now is becoming an embarrassment for them. Commoner K is a prostitute. All of that has been brought into the public eye, and that video has been banned in many countries across the world. Okay? So, and I'm back in court tomorrow. The British constitutional monarchy, and I've dedicated hundreds and hundreds of hours to defending myself as a husband. All of it has been totally ignored by the corrupted judiciary, who are also the corrupted speculative society in Edinburgh, and all of the frauds that they run all across the world, right into Dunedin, where I was much loved by my students. Yeah, none of them dare talk to me now, because they're under orders, and they will lose the right to work like me, because they loved me telling the truth about how the world is run. And my inaugural lecture was the only one that has never been openly published. I can send you the PDF if you write to me. Yeah, it's about nerve gases, terror attacks, and yeah, all of the things that Lord Sainsbury did as the science minister in the UK, and the running down of decent and honest research funding all across the globe and replacing it by student theft projects. Yeah, on the 31st of July 2015 I wrote an open letter to HRH on the factors behind the economic frauds, the legitimacy of our family, massive religious frauds, and the corruption that blights the world and underpins all wars and sectarian strife, all for profit. Watch this video, and the original letter can be found in full on this page. Okay, click on the hyperlinks and you'll see the video, yeah, and you'll see all of what I wrote to her, and that is massive compared to the revelations that Greg Hawick got killed, which were only on their illegitimacy under drug running operations. Yet the religion was not touched at all in that, and she's God's representative in England, like Henry VIII was before he fell out with the Pope. Okay, and there's Cameron, who's now demonising. He's demonised Ukraine. He's had all of the forces that he and Obama, totally illegitimate, not even an American citizen, have brutalised Ukraine again and threatened us with world war, and now Syria is under attack, and every political party that's the actors behind the stealing of the world from its people, yeah, and the suppression of the financial prospects and job prospects and pensions and savings of every citizen on the globe. No wonder that he looks a little bit nervous about his future. That's the burial of their son under 10 years. Ivan, yeah, the Ivanhoe Walter Scott joke. Right then, there's the Twin Towers, which they brought down, and all of that is acknowledged by investigative journalists all over the world. There's the MI5, which Miss Manning and Bula, Stella Remington, I've got all the director numbers for all of them. Yeah, there's the genocidal Pope in the Caravan of Death operation and Operation Condor in Latin America. This is the picture that has sparked my sectioning. Yeah, that's the stammering king, and the statement that he's not the father, made originally by Greg Hawick, absolutely hammered by me into the public eye. He's the father of her and her. That's Princess Margaret. Her lover was Snowden, and that is the Rory Bremner joke that you've just seen, that Snowden is the whistleblower who's escaped to Russia, and it's a massive menace to Britain's prospects. These are the menace to Britain's prospects. That's the murderous mafias that run the countries. After World War I, he was booted out of the War Office in disgrace because of the genocides and the commitments that his own troops were asked to make. Yet that is the Gallipoli crime scene, where Mr. Bean, who opened the London Olympics, was the correspondent for the British papers. Yeah, and all of them think it's hilarious. Yeah, and so why has this all happened to a fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society, chair at the best university in New Zealand, honorary professor at Durham University, even today, where I lectured and paid my taxes, did not cash my rebate checks, right up to 2013. Yeah, 2 years after Fingland and my disloyal wife from Chipping Norton and Rothschild Hertfordshire tried to have me banged up as a loony. All of my equipment worth hundreds of thousands has been sequestered since. Yeah, and now, the last time I was at the hearing, Sheriff Peter Patterson said that they were going to appoint someone to make all of my financial decisions. Yeah, because I'm guilty of something that they have never defined. Yeah, and what they're going to do is take my home from me. And what he threatened me with contempt of court. The court is a pivotal part in the mafia stealing the whole world from its democratic people. Yeah, and I'm never going to stop telling those truths. I'm really sad that I lost that Google Maps, because all of the jokes about Donald Trump living in Ayrshire and all of the places around Troon are the same jokes about the secret societies, the Walter Scott stories, yeah, that occur right across in Lanarkshire. Yeah, that's near Grangemouth, yeah, and all of the Freemasonic hubs. And just outside Edinburgh you have the place where they find the Holy Grail in all of those false news stories. This is a real news story because I'm the author of that graph. Yeah, this is released by www.parliament, the statistics on how much it costs to get an honours degree since 1994, when it was totally free, and right up to 2013 when Michael Moore was still in charge of it. Yeah, that was denied by my MP. Yeah, in the interview that I've published online, Callum Kerr did not know that Michael Moore and Vince Cable ran this on behalf of the Rothschild Bank. Yeah, £50,000 up to 2013. It's now £66,000 because of a little add-on that they have made. Okay, the NHS frauds result in 40% of a British doctor's salary coming from meeting their prescribing targets by volume. That is coercion by pharma, government and civil service. Yeah, and for up to 40 grand of a six-figure salary. Dr. Fingland, trained as a copper and forced sectioning of the innocent and informed, is a tool for totalitarian governments, which we now have globally, led by the vicious Security Council members and policed by Intel, relentless surveillance and NATO's armies all over the globe. So this is me explaining why I've been sectioned and been persecuted for the last 5 years. I and several global contacts have exposed the massive money laundering frauds that empty the treasuries using global institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, the ECB, result in worldwide global sovereign debt scandal run by G8 and G20 leaders, the Big Four auditors and the corrupted merchant and federal banks that now asset strip all countries of democratic funding. This website exposes the world leaders, monarchies, aristocrats and corporations that run these massive institutions for private gain, and within 12 months of my disclosures on Chatham House, the Royal Institute for International Affairs, that's the RIIA, yeah, the Court of the Bank of England, Lonro, Lonmin, COSLA, MI5, MI6, the CIA, the Clinton Foundation, I have been relentlessly harassed by law enforcement officials, the Crown Prosecution Service, the sheriffdom, and convicted, in brackets, refused the right to plead not guilty or ask questions under oath to prove my innocence of minor offences. Despite the illegitimacy of the courts and the Crown Office, I have had gagging orders imposed by elected officers, MPs, MSPs, the judiciary or council reps, and the multiple freedom of information requests have been denied. All these tiers of politicians are puppets to the moneylenders who privately run the mints, the debt pools and the federal banks. More seriously though, I have become a war crimes investigator and have all the details, director numbers, boardroom details and published images of the sordid history since the Rothschild family took ownership of the first 5 banks in London, Paris, Naples, Vienna and Frankfurt. Very few people have dared to speak of these issues, and none have survived to tell the tale till Greg Hallett and I took it on. all the messianic religions are frauds too, and only the gods in the heavens will confront this with massive storms and the quakes we are now seeing. In this capitalist fascist stranglehold, these acts of God are interpreted in the recent Paris summit. Yeah, that's where the terror, the false terror, is released by every one of the quislings in the press and even the university leaders now, as sins of the common people that is breathing, soon to be taxed, as already the energy bills rise 20% year on year as public sector pay is frozen and corporations desert even their expert employees, typified by the Grangemouth BP Ineos scandal. El Nino is in the history the icon Magellan had in his 3 ships. That is El Nino, the baby Jesus statuette that sailed by on Christmas Day in the morning. So, and all of the Piso frauds have been totally overlooked, apart from by my friend John Patterson, who I believe yesterday was sent to jail. Yeah, so that's how they gag the innocents. Yeah, and that was my mate from Ireland last night who told me, Sean Maguire. Yeah, and you can find all of my podcasts with him telling all of these truths about how our government and our political leaders and even business leaders like Trump behave all around the world. Totally immoral, totally self-publicists, and all of it is covered up by the press that they totally own. So I'm an intellectual with the courage to raise my head above the parapet, which in the recent past would have had me executed by the brutal world leaders, but this stopped in the UK within the current Queen's lifetime, in brackets Myra Hindley and Nazi Lord Haw Haw, former deputy head of the Conservative Party in the UK, behind Mosley, yeah, the fascist who became the boss at the War Office, yeah, aka Joyce of the BNP, Great Britain, 2 of the last to go by execution. That's Hindley and Lord Haw Haw, Hitler's propagandist from the English Conservative Party. And we cannot smack our babies now, but Mosley of the BNP ran the War Office with 50,000 non-combatant profiteers, and the Mosley relatives ran Burke's peerage right up to 2014. All of it written up by me in referenced articles, yeah, for all of the last 4 unremunerated years. And because my wife started with the proclamation that what I was guilty of was financial desertion, yeah, they did not mention the sectioning threat until we were actually in the sectioning hearing. Yeah, and the letters that I responded to, all of them have been published since 2011, and all of those doctors all across the UK are in breach of their Hippocratic oath, and their patients are dismembered totally by all of the scams. Okay, below are an arbitrary list of topics that they want me silenced on that are not already on the transcript above, and all covered by Max Clifford and Rupert Murdoch's media circus, and the disappearance of Greg Hallett for revealing the 160, now 163 year bastard illegitimate Windsor bloodline, and the massive breeding chamber and war crimes of the Rothschilds, funders of all wars, all sides, and now all central front/federal banks globally. Changing the laws of succession in 2012, backdated to October 2011, like my divorce. Yeah, all of it is to cover up, and all of the appointment of all of those sheriffs who have continued relentlessly persecuting me and silencing me and impoverishing me and making statements that are really intimidating, that I will not be allowed to talk to my boys about what they want to happen with their heritable assets, because he is going to impose a decision maker on my financial future in the hearing that occurs tomorrow. Levison, Chipping Norton, Murdoch, the British trivia, diversionary frauds, and the global media false news. That's Rory Bremner. Yet just one of the citations for how they get the false news across. Okay, Rifkind, Chilcot interlocks, Iraqi genocide, Kurdistan 1, George Herbert Bush, Zahawi, Bertillo, William Hague, Mark Thatcher, Pinochet, Popes Pius XII, World War II, Benedict XIV, World War I, Benedict of Hitler Youth, Justin Welby, Elf oil exec and son of Winston Churchill's private secretary, Yeah, that's the Archbishop of Canterbury. Argentina, Masters of the Horse, Vestes Beef Empire in Argentina, Virtual Oil and Gas, Dukes of Westminster, Eccleston Richest Man, British Legion leader, Narcotics, FDR, Churchill, Onassis, Prince Philip, the Chinese Opium Wars, GB, Doping, the Great Opium Coup, Golden Triangle, Marseille Labs, Latin America, Kissinger, the biggest killer, Cuba, Miami, Vietnam War, Afghanistan, Jacques Foccart, de Gaulle, Pompidou, North African oil elf companies, narcotics, Villa Andrea assassinations, Marseille and Kissinger. 3 Polish World War II, 3 Belgians, de Gaulle and Berkhamsted throughout World War II, no bombing zones, Oxford, Cambridge, Heidelberg and Göttingen, de la Pole family, Plantagenet tyrants, Longshanks, Norfolks, Rothschild family trees, Duchess of Sutherland, Jewish policy studies, National Gallery, Montefiore links, frauds in share releases in the Christian churches and cathedrals that all of those world elites run. Zionist profiteering and mercenary armies, the Shimon Peres dynasty wartime art galleries, ergo private security companies, Israeli tank commanders and private security, General Sir Mike Jackson, Rebecca Brooks interlocks with Netanyahu 7/7 and the terrorist incidents, the killing of the terrorist actors, yet in front of the massive financial institutions that are the HSBC Bank, yet where my brother-in-law has his second or third flat, and my brother-in-law's heritable assets in property alone are worth over 1.4 million. Yeah, the Quran published in Tel Aviv by the Crays and the Crashes. Yeah, that's the Cray twins cover in London. The Lubavitcher Friends of Israel, Glober takeover, Canada, White House, all the British parties, and the rewriting of all of the biblical text by younger members of the Bush family in the Vatican building. Demonisation of Islam, ISIS, greater than 2,000 Mr. Islams on the British Business Register listed as directors. First Lady Boss at Oxford University in 800 years is an Irish Catholic professor, Louise Richardson, terror false news expert appointed by Sir Ian Brown, now St Andrews and the Scottish Financial Enterprise, who crashed the global banks in 2008 out of the Speculative Society in Edinburgh, Rothschild's 600 registered directors, underworld ownership frauds, and the Nuremberg scams. Okay, Martin Bormann, Whitney Harris, Frank Pentaglia, and the body double jokes and executions out of Hollywood after they had actually occurred in Nuremberg. And in the Godfather movies for a laugh. War crimes and nuclear inspection fudges right up to the Balkans, Iraq, NZ, Pelindaba in South Africa, the University of Warwick rules, death threats to the witnesses. That is the arms to Iraq scandal, for which Mrs. Thatcher signed the gagging order. Same year as she put Lord Mackay of Clashfern into power. Okay, and she put Fairbairn into power. The Fleming wartime profiteering scandals, Operation Winnie the Pooh, Mountbatten Report, and Greg Hallett's portrayal of the Brits releasing Hitler, Braun, Bormann from the Berlin